What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about another smaller found footage movie that I read a little bit about online that sounded like something that would be right up my alley. So, this movie was actually created by a family during the pandemic, from what I could read online. It was eventually released in 2022, and it was literally them trying to do what they could while they were in lockdown. And what's really interesting is they don't specifically reference the COVID pandemic, but they utilize the pandemic in a different way to kind of create this alternative universe. And it's something that I appreciated quite a bit about this movie when I was going in to watch it. Just taking that set of circumstances that you're in and making something else out of it completely. And I love creativity like that, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to watch this movie. And the film I'm going to be telling you about today is He's Watching. He's Watching is He's Watching is directed by Jacob Aaron Estes. A pair of happy-go-lucky siblings left alone while their parents recover from an illness play a series of pranks on each other. The game becomes nightmare and they realize something sinister is watching them and it wants to play too. So I was super excited to watch this movie. Like I said, I'm always really impressed when people like take a set of circumstances and try to make something out of it. You know, when the pandemic was happening, I'm sure it was difficult for people to feel super creative because of being locked in and isolated from the world. And what I will say about this is I really appreciated it a lot. I don't think everything about this works for me perfectly, but I love a lot about it. It takes a ton of risks. I really like how experimental the visual presentation is with this movie. There's actually some really nice looking shots despite it being found footage, and I really appreciate how real it feels because the two leads in this movie are siblings in real life. The experience that they're having and the true raw emotion that they're feeling feels legitimate because they're related and because they live life together. And I think creating that natural chemistry is one of the successes of the movie. So at the beginning of the movie, we are introduced to Iris and Lucas, who are brother and sister, who we learn very early on they're living amidst this pandemic that is happening. And it's not the COVID pandemic, it's something else entirely. And it's causing the world to go into chaos, and the United States in particular, I believe. And due to this pandemic, a lot of people are being struck by this illness, including their parents. And their parents have been sent to go to this hospital to essentially force quarantine to get better so that they can come back home to their kids, which leave the kids at home to their own devices. And of course, because of that, they're kids. They mess around, they have fun. Lucas is much younger than Iris is, but the two of them, they have that normal brother and sister relationship where you can tell they very much love each other, but they get on each other's nerves. And early on in the movie, some weird things start to happen to them where it feels like someone is watching them in the middle of the night. And at first, the two siblings think that it's the two of them messing with each other and kind of getting inside each other's heads. But as we learn early on, that's not the case whatsoever. It's something much more dark and sinister. And the entirety of the film is watching these two siblings experience whatever this dark and sinister force is messing with them as the nights go on and on. So, like I said, I really enjoyed this and I very much appreciate a lot about it. Not all of it works for me, some of it's a little bit rough around the edges, but I really can respect what the filmmaker is going for here, and I'm excited to tell you a little bit about it. So first off, what I really like about this movie is the performances. Most of this movie is this brother and sister. What I love so much about it is because they're related in real life, their relationship feels very real. Every single time that they're on screen together, the emotions that they have and like how they get on each other's nerves, but when things sort of like start to spiral out of control, you can feel that genuine compassion and care for one another because of the relation to each other. And I think that's what makes the movie feel so grounded in reality, is because of the fact that the two of them are related in real life. And like I said, this was made by an actual family, and so there is a very personal touch to the movie, which is one of the reasons why I think it was so successful for me, was that I was able to appreciate the fact that these are real people, even though it's like a fake situation. It's real people playing themselves, which makes the movie have a very raw feeling. And when the kids are experiencing terror in real time, that's something that I could really get on board with because it was genuinely unsettling. And paralleled with that is I like a lot of the choices of the haunting visuals in this. There's some really like surreal, abstract unsettling imagery in this movie that I think the director does a really nice job of incorporating to make you feel very uncomfortable. There were moments of this that sort of reminded me of Skinamarink in a very different way, very analog and unsettling. And there's something about how these kids being in their own house that the movie sort of like lulls you into comfortability at first. And there's not always like loud musical cues or things to scare you in that way. It's mostly relying on things changing in the frame or like a terrifying image being showed to your face that is what makes you so incredibly uncomfortable. And that's something that I really like in horror is when you can take something, lull people into comfortability and then make them feel disturbed because that's I've talked about Skinamarink before, but that's one of the things I loved about that movie is I'm someone who's experienced night terrors in my life and there's nothing more horrifying than feeling comfortable in your own home and then just being completely and totally scared by something, especially in the middle of the night when you're not all there. And that's one of the things about this movie. I watched it relatively late at night and I think because of that it made me even more unsettled because you just feel like you're looking around every corner and waiting for something horrifying to happen. And there's so many really great moments in this movie of just truly scary imagery that will really keep you on the edge of your seat. And that's something else that I really liked about this. And I also feel like the way that the terror kind of builds up over time works really well too, which makes a lot of the stuff that happens towards the tail end of the movie incredibly disturbing. And that's really one of the best parts of the movie. And like I said, this movie isn't perfect. There's definitely some things that are a little rough around the edges. I think it gets a little bit too heavy handed with its exposition towards the end. Like, because so much of the movie is uncertain and they're kind of just throwing this imagery at you, they have to try and like find a way to tell you what's going on. And so the young kid is like doing research and he's just sort of like spouting to you these long bouts of exposition about things that he's researched and some of the implication and things that he figures out over time through things that are left in the house. It feels a little bit too happenstance to be believable, but because of how really fantastic the imagery is presented in the way that these characters are acting, it makes it easier to kind of settle yourself into. But towards the end, the heavy handed exposition started taking me out of it a little bit. Where earlier on in the movie, I liked when it felt relatively dreamy and confusing. I didn't even really necessarily need heavy exposition about what was going on. I don't think that would have changed the trajectory of the movie for me in general because I feel like this movie more than anything else really is just an experience. It's like experiencing this wide array of emotions and like I think it does a really great job paralleling to the pandemic of just like being trapped in one space and how it drove people nuts. Like there are so many people that could not stand being locked in a house. Like people were just dying to get out and like go to the grocery and just do anything to feel like a normal human being. And I think this movie does a really great job sort of capturing that insanity and just how it build up over time. And it's really great because I'm always curious when I watch movies that are in relation to the pandemic because I mean we're about 5 years out of the initial heart of it, and you're always curious as to how that stuff is going to sit or if it's going to feel too soon or any of that. But I think this movie worked really well in that regard. And I think like for a family making this, you know, just in their free time during the pandemic, it was very well done. And I think that if any of this sounds interesting to you, especially if you like more experimental approaches to found footage, this is streaming for free on Tubi right now, and it's definitely worth your time checking out. So have you seen He's Watching? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was very entertaining. Despite its flaws, I really commend the director of this movie and the family for putting in really great performances and making it an entertaining found footage movie. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.